Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
My pleasure to welcome to the show my good friend Sherree Burruss. Of course, you used to watch her on NBC4, but now you watch her on the big fancy network. That's right, NFL Network's Sherree Burruss. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well, Craig. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Nap time was successful for the kiddos?
Yes, we are good. We're now running around. The rain isn't helping, so we're just running up and down the halls, but we're good. It's been a good day so far.
Okay, so if we hear small children yelling in the background, they pick the hallway you're in. Got it.
That's it. Yep.
Will not be the first time, would not be the last time on this show.
Nope.
We're a kid-friendly show. It's just fine. I don't know what that says about me, but we're just going to talk about football now. I thought the practice structure was like the most interesting thing going into this. We've seen such different types of practices this year for the Commanders with Eric Bieniemy. You've obviously covered a lot of Ravens practices. This is kind of your territory splitting between the two. So for you today, like, what did you make of how the practice was set up and how it operated with these two teams coming together?
Yeah, I thought it flowed really well. I know there was a lot of logistics that, obviously go into bringing a team into the facility. A lot for the Ravens to have to host everybody, including ourselves, which snaps. We got a wonderful lunch. But I think the fact that they were able to kind of keep everyone in the right spot, but they were doing, the ones against the ones, Washington versus Ravens on one field and on the other, I wish I could see, the Lamar Jackson against Chase Young. I wanted that 11 on 11, best on best. Hoping maybe tomorrow we're going to get that. But I really like the way they situated the practice and the sessions that I felt like I saw, for the most part, what I wanted to see in the matchups. Like, how was Sam Howell doing? How was his poise? I know that's a lot, the attention that he's getting. Then, how is Lamar handling this new Todd Monken offense? Defensive-wise, is the Washington defense, as Ron said, really picking up where they left off and incorporating those new young guys on the back end? And then for Ravens, this defense also, the stats weren't always there, but towards the end of the year, they kind of picked it up. So just kind of see if those storylines of the things we were looking for really, off-season stuff was kind of coming together now as we're, I don't even know what day number we are on training camp. Maybe you've kept track. We're just on dog day number, I don't know what. But
Right.
I thought it was, good for what, at least a starting point.
Hilariously, we have been trying to keep track because we, with the YouTube live stream, we make graphics and the whole deal. And it's like day whatever of training camp. If people actually go through our videos, they will see jumps and skips and rewinds because we cannot keep track. Because it's like, do you count the off days? Do you not? I think we're going with today as day 19 of training camp.
Okay.
That's
Do
how
you count the game itself also?
Yes, I'm just counting from the day they started, which was July 27th, let's say. I think today's day 19. That's what we're rolling with.
I'll stick with it. All right, so day 19. I liked what I saw.
Yeah, excellent. So on some of the more specific stuff, I felt like Terry was as active today as he has been all camp. I feel like production-wise, he had more catches today than any practice that I've been to. You've obviously been covering him as long as I have since he got here as a rookie a couple years ago. But what have you seen from him in terms of his growth and development? And also, how do you, as you've started in this role with NFL Network and you talk to some of your colleagues, where do you kind of rank him on the echelons of NFL receivers?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that stands out to me in seeing the growth of Terry McLaurin is his maturity almost and taking over that leadership role. He was there for the press conference for the new ownership group, right? He was one of two players we saw with Jonathan Allen there. Then today, when they had, the little dust-ups, let's call them, Terry was one of the very first guys to get out there to defend his guys. I don't think I would call Terry really a vocal dude from what we hear in our regular, day-to-day practice. I would assume you'd agree. I have never heard him today as loud as I did. He was talking some smack. I was here for it, but he was bringing the energy, and I feel like that is really the growth we've seen of he is one of the elder statesmen of this team, not just the offense. So he is taking on more of that role. And I do think you're right. There was a lot of really good targets for Terry. And it's funny, I was, doing some research as we really dug into training camp. And one stat that jumped off the page to me is the fact that Terry has accounted for nearly 30% of all of Washington's receiving yards since 2019. Do you know how many quarterbacks he's had to catch a ball from to still be able to produce nearly a third of the offense in receiving yards? Just that alone blew my mind, and I think that's a testament to just how important he will be to this offense.
Yeah, I think that answer is 142. I think that's how many quarterbacks it's been.
Yeah.
And it's funny, he was actually asked about that today, and he was asked about, like, you've been a guy that's been consistent with your receptions, your receiving yards, like everything is pretty flatline despite who has been playing quarterback for you. Is that something that you've researched, thought about? And he's like, yeah, there's certain guys that have been able to do that. I remember he mentioned D-Hop by name. There was one other receiver who
Andre Johnson.
That's right, Andre Johnson. Andre Johnson. Yeah, thank you, Anthony, for that in my ear. But it's funny because it's something I used to talk about with Santana Moss all the time, who played for, I think, 14 different quarterbacks in his 14 years in the league between the Jets and Washington. And, like, it is such a skill. So that's an incredible stat that you pulled up, and it's interesting that he was talking about that and some of these guys that are probably going to be Hall of Famers that he's kind of modeling after. Sherree Burruss is with us, NFL Network. The big like, kind of overarching thing that I walked away with today, Sherree, was just the physicality of the Ravens. I thought the Commanders matched it just fine. But, like, as someone who is at Ravens practices more regularly, like, do they hit like that when it is just them, or was that something a little extra because they were finally hitting a different jersey?
Oh yeah, no, there was a lot of juice there. You got to think, I mean, as winning as the Ravens are in the preseason, I think they're at now 24 straight preseason wins. Their starters really don't play like they're established starters. We did not see Odell. We will not see Lamar. Marlon Humphrey didn't play. So these guys actually get a chance to hit someone at this point, and particularly not their own teammates. So, no, I don't normally see them this jacked up and this physical at practice. But even after, Marlon did say, he's like, I get more out of this than a preseason game because we can hit guys. Sure, you're not trying to hurt the dude regardless, but this is the most physical they can get before the games actually count. And Marlon did even joke, the little, physicality stuff that caused those dust-ups. Like, yes, I mean, they were just talking about the weather. They just got really excited about what the weather is going to be tomorrow, I think, on both fields. So, they always know that this is their livelihood. This is someone else's livelihood. You're not trying to hurt anybody. It's for everyone to get better. But there was definitely a lot more popping of the pads than I think we're used to seeing there in Charm City.
Yeah, no, I was curious because, like, I know they have very physical practices usually, but I don't know, in my opinion, from the videos that I saw, because I was not on the field where the punches were thrown at the time that they were thrown. I felt like it was the Ravens' fault to an extent that there was someone at fault. Like they were the ones like pushing the limit, going after the whistle. And I thought that was interesting from a John Harbaugh team that you typically would not associate anything dirty, anything untoward with. And I think some of the stuff that they did you punch a guy in the head, that definitely crosses the line,
Yeah, I was on the side where the scuffle with Terry and some of the Ravens defense was. So yeah, I also missed that side. But, I think, and I didn't see everything that sparked it, but I definitely think there is a little bit of juice on both sides, knowing the caliber of franchise and playoff stature that the Ravens have. And I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but if I were a Commander, I'd be like, you know what? I want to go into Baltimore. I want to walk into Owing Mills, and I want to show them that I am just as good. Like, I deserve to be in the playoffs, and it starts now. I would hope they have that mentality. So if we saw a little bit of, someone might have said a little something here, then this kind of sparked there. So, I don't want to point fingers, but it made for definitely for some fireworks for day one.
So let me wrap up with this thought then. Sherree Burruss, NFL Network, is with us here on the Hoffman Show. Like, you've seen a ton of both of these teams this summer. How different are they? Like, how far apart are these teams where nationally everyone thinks the Ravens are going to be a potential AFC title contender if Lamar is there and healthy the whole year, and people think the Commanders are one of the 7 worst teams in football?
It's the youth, I think, is really what stands out to me. Like, as you're saying this, I'm thinking, like, all right, who's on the roster? I mean, Lamar Jackson's in his 6th season. He has Odell Beckham, who's a veteran, Mark Andrews, who's his go-to, who's one of the top tight ends in the league. Sure, they have Zay Flowers, so he's a new guy, but they have 5 first-round draft picks in the Ravens wide receiver room. So that on paper looks incredible. We got to see how healthy they are. Then on the flip side, the defense is also, pretty veteran. I guess they do have 2 younger guys, Owe and Ajobu, so they're trying to get them up to speed. But if I look at Washington, I think, yes, they have that really strong defensive front of Payne, Allen, Sweat, and I'm missing one.
Allen, Payne, Sweat, Young.
Young, there you go. I see, it sounds like a law firm to me. I got to make sure I get them in order. Those guys obviously are so established, but we're getting Chase back. What is he going to look like? Then you think of the two rookies, Manuel Forbes and Quan Martin. What are they going to be? Sam Howell, he's kind of a new guy. They're bringing in a new offense. So I feel like there's just more questions of what Washington will be and can be, as opposed to the Ravens of they already have the framework, and we kind of know already what they can do and what they look like. They're just plugging in a few holes. So to me, that's kind of the biggest contrast when I look at these two, particularly on paper and sort of how the season could project.
No, I think that's fair. And when you say what is Lamar going to be versus what is Sam Howell going to be? Like, one's won the MVP and the other one is Sam Howell. Now, of course, we all know injury that can always change a season, but that kind of comes standard. Sherree,
we have one game of Sam Howell, and it was against Dallas.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, and Lamar's career starts versus MVP trophies, but one and one. Howell versus Jackson. Great to see you today, ma'am. Always a pleasure, and hopefully I will see you out in Ashburn at some point before camp is over. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Craig.
That is Sherree Burruss, everybody, with us, NFL Network here on the Hoffman Show. Of course, longtime NBC4 reporter as well. But she is kind of splitting her time now on NFL Network between the Ravens and the Commanders. So as they came together, she's definitely a great person to talk to and get perspective on. All right, we'll react to that a little bit more from Rivera as well next. And then Mike Jones, speaking of former Washington media greats, and now, of course, senior NFL writer with The Athletic. Jonesy joins us at 5:30 here on the Team 980.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.